Welcome back to Bookish Dives. We know you appreciate the shortcut to knowledge. And today we're doing another deep dive, this time into some really compelling source material.
That's right. We're looking at the memoir Careless People, a cautionary tale of power, greed, and lost idealism.
It's by Sarah Wynn-Williams, and it covers her, 7 intense years inside Facebook, which is meta now, of course, advising the top leadership.
Yeah, and our mission here really is to unpack what happens when you have this immense technological power colliding head-on with almost zero political or ethical, experience.
Right. And the book kicks off with this perfect scene that just captures that collision. Panama.
Oh, the Panama State dinner. It's almost unbelievable.
So let's set the scene for you. They're at this state dinner, but it's held in these, archaeological ruins. Kind of strange already. And Sarah, the narrator, she's juggling terrible seating arrangements, no internet signal at all.
Which is death in that world.
Exactly. And she's trying to manage Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO, who, as she puts it, plainly does not enjoy these kinds of formal diplomatic things. He's uncomfortable.
So what does she do? This is classic. She sees the name cards for Mark and some minor president, and she just palms them, slips them into her handbag, swaps them, and basically rearranges the seating plan herself on the fly.
Just total diplomatic improvisation. You got to admire the nerve, really.
If sheer grit meets protocol chaos.
And then the detail that just sends it over the top. She looks over. Mark leans into her and whispers, "Why are there naked people at a state dinner?"
Wait, naked people? Seriously?
Apparently. It sums up the whole book, right? The absurdity. You've got high-stakes global diplomacy crashing into the complete, political awkwardness and naivete of this tech giant that thinks it can just ignore or rewrite any rules it doesn't like.
And she says later that scene was kind of a microcosm. Her whole journey started as a, quote, hopeful comedy. But it ended in darkness and regret because things just, quote, did not quite work out like we expected.
And you really need to understand where she started from to get why the ending felt so dark. Her initial idealism was incredibly high. Almost impossibly so.
Yeah, that idealism, it wasn't just abstract. It was forged in this really intense personal trauma.
A truck attack.
Yeah, when she was 13. A horrific experience. And then, adding insult to injury, the first doctor she sees, while she's obviously in agony and shock, hyperventilating.
What does the doctor say?
Tells her, mind over matter, stop that hyperventilating. Just chilling.
Wow, that's brutal. But surviving that, it gave her this profound sense of purpose, didn't it?
Absolutely. This feeling of shouldn't I be doing something with this life, it drove her towards wanting to make a global impact.
So she works on human rights, international environmental treaties, the UN, the Foreign Service, trying to find the right channel.
But then comes the disillusionment with those traditional channels. She describes this moment at the UN.
Oh yeah, the comma versus semicolon debate.
Exactly. Drafting the annual report on the law of the sea, and delegates are arguing for hours over a single punctuation mark.
Well, presumably the actual sea has actual problems.
Right, and she has this epiphany. The system is broken. She actually says, a cartoon fish, Finding Nemo, can achieve more than the United Nations.
That's a powerful realization. And it explains why Facebook, around 2009, seemed like such a revolutionary force to her.
Totally. She genuinely saw it as this new global political entity, something that could open up the world, connect everyone, and basically set the rules for how we all communicate.
A huge vision.
So huge that she felt compelled to, in her words, pitch the revolution to Facebook for a job that didn't even exist yet.
How'd that pitch go? She touched Marlene, right? Who was VP of Global Policy then.
Yeah, and her angle was smart looking ahead. She focused on the future regulatory fights Facebook would inevitably face, things like GMOs back then, arguing these would block growth if they didn't get ahead of it with policy.
But here's the first sort of crack in the ideal. Marne Levine. Her interest wasn't really in the world connecting part.
Not primarily, no. According to Sarah, Marne saw Facebook fundamentally as a global business force.
Wow. Subtle but critical difference. Global politics versus global profit.
Exactly. And that distinction right there, that's kind of the starting point for the next 7 years of compromise.
So she joins officially in 2011. Talk about culture shock. Her background was the New Zealand embassy, slow, careful, very hierarchical.
Oh, completely. And she has this great aha moment on day one.
The laptop story.
Yeah. They hand her a laptop, and she coming from government work, assumes it's, a home laptop for occasional remote work.
Right, like a pook.
But no, it was the laptop, her only work computer right there at her desk. It just screamed, scrappy startup, move fast, compared to the embassy's careful ways.
And that speed, that move fast culture, it was tied up with something else, wasn't it? The money?
Oh, the money. Obscene wealth, as she puts it. And it wasn't tied to rank in the usual way.
Yeah.
Because it was all about stock options, granted based on tenure. When you joined, it mattered more than your title. So you had relatively junior people who got in early.
Pre-IPO.
Exactly, who were suddenly worth vastly more than senior execs hired later. It created this really weird dynamic.
Yeah, she mentions phrases like people being price insensitive. Their salary was almost irrelevant.
Or calling themselves economic volunteers, because their real wealth was all tied up in stock.
Which must have fueled this relentless work culture she describes, this stamina expectation.
Totally. And it was by design. She quotes Sheryl Sandberg saying staffers should deliberately be overloaded.
Why?
Because according to Sandberg, it's best if no one has spare time. That's where the trouble and territoriality start. Keep them busy. Keep them focused.
Wow, that's intense. That kind of culture demands a lot. How did that play out with the top leadership styles?
Yeah.
Between Zuckerberg and Sandberg?
You see this fundamental split. Mark Zuckerberg, his world was engineering. Purely.
Didn't care about politics or policy.
No, she says his disregard for it was almost a point of pride. Initially, no interest in meeting world leaders. He was even seen as too much of a political naïf for a meeting with the NZ Prime Minister early on.
And then Sheryl Sandberg. Very different.
Completely. She came from the policy and PR world. Sarah describes her as like glowing, sparkling, almost celebrity-like.
But very focused on image.
Laser-focused. Especially on reputation and her personal brand. The Lean-In book tour chaos is a prime example. The fuss over makeup artist demanding a specific photo op of the Japanese PM holding the book. It was all about the optics.
So you have Mark, the engineer king, and Sheryl, the PR queen. And under them?
Under them, driving the actual expansion, was the growth team, led by Javi Olivon. This was the company's capitalist engine, as Sarah calls it.
And their methods were aggressive.
Fast and loose is the term she uses, often deeply unsettling.
Yeah, like importing user contacts by default without asking first, that kind of thing.
Uh-huh. And creating the people you may know tool, which she describes as just creepy as hell.
Quite creepy.
Because it was so powerful, sometimes disturbingly so. It could apparently surface connections, like suggesting a sperm donor's biological child to the recipient, things you might not want surfaced.
Okay, that is unsettling.
And this relentless growth mindset, this conquering mentality, Sarah says that was the real beating heart of the company.
So if policy got in the way of growth...
Policy lost. Every time. The ideal was secondary to the expansion.
You see that clash really clearly with the organ donation idea, right?
Oh, absolutely. A perfect case study. Sarah and the policy team, they wanted to do this registration drive, but crucially, they wanted to limit the amount of information Facebook collected, trying to stick to privacy principles.
Makes sense. But Sheryl?
Sheryl was apparently baffled by the idea of limiting data collection. She wanted Facebook to have a much bigger role collecting data, maybe even creating a marketplace for organs and more.
Whoa, okay. That's a fundamental disagreement about the company's role and its relationship with user data.
Totally. It wasn't just a tactical argument. It showed Sarah's moral compass was pointing in a completely different direction than the company's data engine.
And the final decision came down to Mark. The policy team actually won the argument against Sheryl's idea for a huge megaphone pop-up about organ donation, arguing it wasn't Facebook's place to push it so hard.
Right. But then Mark steps in, no debate, no discussion. Sarah gets her first direct email from him ever.
And it just says,
4 words, I am overruling you.
That's it.
That's it. And for Sarah, that moment was the real birth of the autocracy of one, where one person's whim could just erase years of policy work.
And from there, the stakes just kept getting higher, the compromises deeper, moving beyond data into, like, physical safety.
Yeah, the Korea situation is horrifying. There were active arrest warrants out for Mark, Sheryl, and Elliot Schrage, the communications head, because of some gaming regulation issues in Korea.
Okay, serious problem. How do they handle it?
Well, Elliot Schrage's proposed solution, it's just chilling. He suggested sending someone else.
Sending someone else where?
To Korea. A junior employee. Someone who actually referred to as a body or cannon fodder.
Wait, send a junior person to potentially get arrested, just to see what the Korean authorities would do.
Exactly. To test their appetite for actually arresting a U.S.-based Facebook employee so the senior execs wouldn't have to risk it.
That's unbelievable. Did Sarah go along with that?
Absolutely not. She refused. But the suggestion itself was, for her, this awful, clarifying lesson. Leaders that fundamentally didn't care about the individuals carrying out their directives. People were just pawns.
Human resources in the most literal, disposable sense.
Pretty much. A test variable against market access.
But the absolute lowest point, the most catastrophic failure described, it has to be Myanmar.
Without a doubt. Myanmar is devastating. Facebook essentially became the internet there almost overnight.
But the platform wasn't ready, was it? The language issue.
Exactly. It didn't properly support the Burmese language, the Unicode standard, which meant content moderation was basically impossible. They couldn't reliably read or flag problematic posts.
And this wasn't just theoretical.
No, this was what Sarah calls lethal carelessness. People inside Facebook were warning leadership that posts were actively causing riots in the streets, real-world violence.
But fixing the technical problem wasn't prioritized.
It wasn't. Growth and other features came first. And the result was horrific. The military used the platform for a massive, coordinated campaign, spreading hate speech, inciting violence, contributing to genocide narratives.
And Facebook leadership
did nothing, in her words, until it was far, far too late. The damage was done.
Just negligence on a staggering scale. And then alongside that, you have the attempts to get into China.
Ah, yes. Mark's push for China. He went to extraordinary lengths, visited the country multiple times, famously learned Mandarin.
And he had that strange admiration for Andrew Jackson.
Yeah, calling Jackson the greatest president because he was ruthless and getting stuff done.
Which Sarah actually questioned him on, right? Using her foreigner status to ask why he'd admire someone known for, well, ethnic cleansing.
She did. But the real shocker with China came later. The discovery of the potential deal.
What was the deal?
To gain market access, it appears Facebook was willing to give the Chinese government access to user data, specifically Hong Kong users' data.
But they'd promised publicly they wouldn't do that kind of thing.
Precisely. A direct contradiction of their public assurances about protecting users in places like Hong Kong, another ideal sacrificed for market entry.
This all seems to build towards Mark Zuckerberg's own kind of political shift around 2016.
Yeah, the Trump election seemed to be a catalyst. Sarah writes he was furious about Facebook being blamed.
Which led to some soul-searching, maybe.
Initially, yes. But that introspection quickly turned into something else. A desire to flex his own power, maybe even political ambition.
You see that shift at the Apex Summit she describes.
Definitely. He's no longer the awkward tech guy intimidated by world leaders. Now he's presiding over them, she says, like a boy king.
And Sarah sees this growing hubris and tries one last desperate intervention.
On the private jet, yeah. She tries to warn him by referencing the movie Citizen Kane, the ultimate cautionary tale about power and isolation.
Ow.
She just calls out the film's famous last word, rosebud, hoping it might spark some reflection.
And Mark's reaction?
Complete confusion. He just asked what she was talking about. The warning just whiffed, didn't land at all.
And then came the 2017 tour.
Right. His personal challenge for the year, visiting key U.S. presidential primary states, Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina.
Which looked awfully like
testing the waters for a presidential run. Sarah's conclusion was blunt. If Trump can do it, so could he.
All this corporate maneuvering, the ethical compromises, the relentless pace. It took a huge personal toll on Sarah, didn't it?
Immense. The stamina culture was brutal, especially after she gave birth. She describes suffering a terrifying hemorrhage in the hospital.
Oh, my God.
And continuing to lose blood for months afterwards while still trying to work.
And leadership's response? Was it supportive?
Their focus, she says, was purely on getting her back online, back to work. They even chipped in money for a night nanny.
Which sounds helpful, but...
But the underlying message was clear. And they pressured her to fly to a leadership meeting in India while she was still physically recovering and unwell. Her well-being was secondary to her function.
Just keep the machine running.
Exactly. Survival was less important than service to the company.
And this internal decay wasn't just about external policy. It was inside the company, too. The emotional targeting stuff.
Yeah, the cover-up around ads targeted specifically at vulnerable, insecure teenagers based on their emotional state.
And when that got out?
The company issued a statement approved by senior execs that was just a flat lie, saying explicitly that Facebook does not offer tools to target people based on their emotional state.
So moving from carelessness and compromise to active deception.
Yeah, it seems that way. And then there were the systemic issues with handling sexual harassment. She mentions Joel Kaplan, a senior executive, his behavior.
The sultry comment, the dancing.
Right. And a broader failure, contextualized by reports like the one about Uber at the time, to adequately protect women within the company.
It all builds to her inevitable exit. She decides she just can't be grit in the machine anymore.
Yeah, she stops fighting the internal battles, and the end is swift and cold. Fired abruptly by 2 executives, Elliot and Heidi.
Laptop confiscated on the spot.
Immediately. And the final insult? When she asks about getting a reference,
They tell
her to ask Joel Kaplan for one, the very executive whose conduct she had raised concerns about.
Just, well, a final twist to the knife.
It really sums up the book's conclusion. The hopeful, idealistic company she joined was gone, corrupted. But for the leadership, these huge moral compromises, they never felt particularly momentous. It was all just
business.
Exactly.
So the big takeaway here for you listening, it really feels like a blueprint, doesn't it? How idealism gets chewed up, even weaponized, when it runs into that absolute mandate for exponential growth. It's a stark picture of unchecked power decaying from the inside.
And maybe the most chilling connection is where Sarah Wynn-Williams finds herself now. She ends the book noting she's working on AI weapons policy.
Right.
And she makes this point. All technology is buggy. It has unintended consequences. So think about it. If Facebook's lethal carelessness, driven by technical flaws and ignored warnings, could contribute to genocide in Myanmar.
Yeah.
What happens when that same dynamic, unchecked, buggy systems, maybe flawed AI, operated without robust oversight, is applied to something like military second strike capability, nuclear retaliation systems?
It's terrifying. If you can't reliably moderate hate speech, how can you possibly trust similar systems with decisions that could lead to global catastrophe?
It really puts the carelessness into a much, much larger and scarier context, doesn't it? It's definitely a provocative thought to chew on, connecting the seemingly mundane failures of a social media company to potentially existential risks.
Absolutely. A vital connection to make.
Well, this was our deep dive into careless people. We really hope you found this exploration valuable.
Please do follow us for more in-depth looks at compelling source materials and the surprising knowledge you can find within them, right here on Bookish Dives.